The steam rose from the kettle in lazy spirals, innocent and ordinary, the kind of detail Elena Martinez would remember later in her nightmares. She was 8 months pregnant, her belly stretched tight beneath her cotton dress as she bent to retrieve the mail from the porch, one hand braced against her lower back where the constant ache had settled like an unwelcome companion. The doorbell had rung twice. Strange, because the Ring camera usually announced visitors before they reached the door. Elena had installed it herself 6 months ago, back when her husband Ryan still came home at night, back when she still believed his excuses about late meetings and business trips. She opened the door expecting a package delivery. Instead, Vanessa Chen stood on her doorstep, designer heels clicking against the concrete, her expression twisted into something ugly and triumphant. In her manicured hands, she held a stainless steel kettle, and even from 5 feet away, Elena could see the steam pouring from its spout. "You should have signed the papers when Ryan asked nicely," Vanessa said, her voice unnaturally calm. Then she threw the boiling water. The liquid arced through the air in terrible slow motion. Elena's hands flew instinctively to her belly, trying to shield her unborn daughter, but physics and pregnancy had made her slow. The scalding water hit her stomach, her arms, her chest, soaking through the thin cotton dress like it was nothing. The scream that tore from Elena's throat wasn't entirely her own. It belonged to every woman who'd ever been betrayed, every mother who'd ever faced violence, every soul who'd discovered that the world could be crueler than imagination allowed. She collapsed onto the porch, her vision blurring with pain and shock, distantly aware of Vanessa's footsteps retreating, of a car door slamming, of tires squealing against asphalt. Above her, mounted beneath the eave, the Ring doorbell's blue light blinked steadily, recording everything in perfect high-definition clarity. If you're wondering how this story ends, how Elena turned this moment of horror into the most spectacular takedown you've ever witnessed, hit that subscribe button right now and drop a comment telling me what time it is where you're watching from. Trust me, what happens next will restore your faith that justice still exists in this world. Mrs. Chen from next door found her 3 minutes later, the elderly woman's horrified gasp cutting through the haze of Elena's agony. "Oh my God, Elena! I'm calling 911. The ambulance arrived in 7 minutes. 7 minutes that felt like 7 lifetimes as Elena lay on her porch, her hands pressed against her belly, whispering desperate promises to the baby moving frantically inside her. "You're okay, sweet girl. Mama's got you. You're okay." But she wasn't sure if either of them were okay. The paramedics were gentle, professional, their faces carefully neutral as they cut away her ruined dress and assessed the burns covering her stomach and arms. 2nd degree, possibly 3rd in some areas. 8 months pregnant. Clear signs of trauma. Possible premature labor. "Ma'am, can you tell us what happened?" the younger paramedic asked as they loaded her into the ambulance. Elena's voice came out hoarse, damaged. "My husband's mistress. She threw boiling water on me. It's all on video. The Ring camera caught everything." The paramedics exchanged glances. The older one pulled out his phone. "Ma'am, I need to call the police. This is assault." "It's attempted murder," Elena corrected quietly, her hands still pressed protectively over her burned belly. "She tried to kill my baby." At Mercy General Hospital, they rushed her to the maternity ward, where Dr. Patricia Reeves, the same doctor who'd been monitoring her pregnancy for 8 months, met them with barely controlled fury in her eyes. "Elena, my God," Dr. Reeves breathed, examining the burns with gentle fingers. "Who did this to you?" "Vanessa Chen. My husband's mistress." Elena's voice was steadier now, shock giving way to something colder and harder. "She came to my house. She brought a kettle. She planned this." While nurses cleaned and dressed the burns, Dr. Reeves performed an emergency ultrasound. The room fell silent as they listened to the baby's heartbeat, strong and steady despite everything. "She's okay," Dr. Reeves said finally, relief flooding her features. "Your daughter is okay. Her heart rate is elevated but stable. No signs of distress. Elena, your instinct to shield your belly might have saved her life." Elena felt tears stream down her face, hot and cleansing. "How bad are my burns?" Second degree across your abdomen, arms, and chest. Third degree in 2 small areas. You'll need skin grafts after delivery, and there will be scarring. Dr. Reeves met her eyes with fierce compassion. But you're both alive. That's what matters. A knock interrupted them. 2 police officers stood in the doorway, a male detective who looked like he'd seen too many terrible things, and a female officer whose expression suggested personal investment in violence against women. Mrs. Martinez, I'm Detective James Morrison, and this is Officer Sarah Kim. We need to take your statement about what happened this afternoon. Elena told them everything. Ryan's affair with Vanessa Chen, the daughter of tech mogul Marcus Chen. The divorce papers he'd served her 2 weeks ago, demanding she sign away any claim to his assets or their unborn child. Her refusal. The threatening messages Vanessa had been sending for months. And finally, this afternoon's attack. We'll need to see that ring camera footage, Detective Morrison said, taking notes. I already downloaded it to my phone in the cloud, Elena replied. I can send it to you right now. She pulled up the app with trembling fingers and watched their faces as they viewed the footage. Vanessa approaching the door, kettle in hand, visible steam rising from the spout. The doorbell ringing. Elena opening the door, clearly pregnant, clearly vulnerable. Vanessa's words, captured in crystal clear audio, you should have signed the papers when Ryan asked nicely. Then the throw, the scream, Elena collapsing, Vanessa fleeing. Officer Kim's expression had gone cold and deadly. Mrs. Martinez, this isn't just assault. This is premeditated aggravated assault with a deadly weapon against a pregnant woman. That's a federal crime in California, especially given the clear intent to harm an unborn child. Federal? Elena's voice sharpened with sudden interest. Yes, ma'am. The Unborn Victims of Violence Act makes it a federal offense to cause harm or death to a child in utero during the commission of certain crimes. Given the severity of the attack and the premeditation, the FBI will likely want this case. Detective Morrison was already on his phone. I'm calling the DA's office now. And Mrs. Martinez, I need to ask, where's your husband? I don't know. We've been separated for 2 weeks since he served me with divorce papers. He's been staying with Vanessa at her penthouse downtown. So he might have known about this attack in advance, Officer Kim said grimly. The implications hung in the air like poison gas. If Ryan had known, if he'd been complicit in any way, he wasn't just a faithless husband. He was an accomplice to attempted murder. Elena's hospital room became a command center over the next hour. The district attorney herself, Catherine Walsh, arrived with federal prosecutors. An FBI agent named Marcus Blake, whose quiet intensity suggested he took crimes against pregnant women very personally. And finally, to Elena's shock, a man she hadn't seen in 9 years. Uncle Vincent? Elena whispered as Vincent Castellano entered the room. He was older than she remembered, silver threading through his dark hair, but his eyes held the same sharp intelligence that had terrified her as a child. Vincent Castellano, her mother's brother, the man who'd built a legal empire defending the indefensible and prosecuting the untouchable. Elena, me Sabrina, he said softly, pulling her into a careful embrace that avoided her injuries. I saw the police report flagged in the system. Why didn't you call me when Ryan started making threats? Because you and I haven't spoken since Mom's funeral. Because I thought I could handle this myself. Because I was stupid and proud and, her voice broke. You were trying to protect your baby and build a life without family complications. I understand. Vincent's voice hardened. But that ends now. Vanessa Chen just made the worst mistake of her privileged life. FBI agent Blake cleared his throat. Mr. Castellano, while I appreciate family loyalty, this is a federal investigation, I'm aware, Agent Blake. I'm also aware that Vanessa Chen's father, Marcus Chen, has been under FBI investigation for wire fraud and securities violations for the past 18 months. Vincent's smile was sharp enough to cut. I'm the lead prosecutor on that case. The room went very quiet. So you see, Vincent continued, what Miss Chen did today wasn't just attempted murder. It was an attempt to intimidate a witness in a federal investigation. Because Elena, what you don't know is that Ryan Martinez has been helping me build the case against Chen Technologies for the past year. Elena felt the world tilt. What? Your husband came to me 8 months ago, right after you got pregnant. He'd discovered financial irregularities at Chen Technologies where he worked as CFO. He agreed to cooperate in exchange for immunity and witness protection. Vincent's expression was grim. But somewhere along the way, he got involved with Vanessa Chen, and his loyalties became complicated. Detective Morrison leaned forward. Are you saying Ryan Martinez is a federal witness who may have compromised an ongoing investigation by having an affair with the target's daughter? I'm saying Ryan Martinez may have told Vanessa Chen about his wife's connection to the prosecution, making Elena a target. Vincent turned to his niece. Did Ryan ever ask you questions about me? About what I was working on? Elena thought back through the fog of pain and medication. 2 months ago, he asked if you'd reached out to me, if you'd mentioned any cases. I said no, that we didn't talk. He seemed relieved. Because he was already sleeping with Vanessa and trying to figure out how much danger he was in, Vincent said flatly. And when you refused to sign divorce papers that would have released him from any financial obligations and custody rights, Vanessa decided to eliminate the problem permanently. FBI agent Blake was making rapid notes. Mr. Castellano, if what you're suggesting is accurate, we're looking at witness tampering, conspiracy to commit murder, and destruction of evidence in a federal case. I'll need everything you have on Ryan Martinez's cooperation agreement. You'll have it within the hour. Vincent turned back to Elena, his expression softening. Mija, I need to ask you something important. Did Ryan ever bring home files or documents from Chen Technologies? Did he ever use your computer or ask you to store anything for him? Elena's breath caught. The external hard drive. 3 months ago, he gave me an external hard drive and asked me to keep it in my safe. He said it was backup files for work, nothing important, but he wanted it somewhere secure. Where is it now? In the safe in our bedroom closet. The code is my birthday. Vincent and Agent Blake exchanged loaded glances. Mrs. Martinez, Blake said carefully, that hard drive might contain the evidence we need to bring down one of the largest tech fraud operations in California history. With your permission, we'd like to retrieve it immediately. You have my permission to take everything. The house, the files, whatever you need. Elena's voice was cold now, crystalline with purpose. But I want Vanessa Chen arrested tonight. I want her to know what it feels like to have her life destroyed in an instant. She's already been arrested, Detective Morrison announced, checking his phone. Officers picked her up at her penthouse 20 minutes ago. The doorbell footage is irrefutable evidence. She's being held without bail on charges of aggravated assault, attempted murder, and assault with a deadly weapon. And Ryan? Elena asked quietly. Vincent's expression turned grim. Your husband is currently in FBI custody. When Vanessa was arrested, she immediately tried to call him. Our agents were waiting. He's being questioned about his knowledge of the attack and his compromise of the federal investigation. Elena leaned back against her pillows, her burned skin screaming in protest, her baby moving restlessly inside her. 24 hours ago, she'd been an abandoned pregnant woman facing divorce and poverty. Now she was at the center of a federal investigation, protected by family she'd thought lost, and holding evidence that could destroy an empire. Uncle Vincent, she said softly, there's something else you should know. What is it, Mija? Vanessa's been sending me threatening messages for weeks. Emails, texts, voicemails. I kept all of them. And 3 days ago, she sent me a video of Ryan in her bed, saying he'd rather see his child dead than raised by me. Elena met her uncle's eyes. I have everything documented. Every threat, every message, every piece of evidence showing this wasn't a crime of passion. This was calculated, planned revenge. Agent Blake looked like Christmas had come early. Mrs. Martinez, we'll need copies of all that documentation immediately. I'll do better than that, Elena replied, pulling out her phone with her unburned hand. I'll give you access to the cloud drive where I've been automatically backing up everything. Messages, videos, Ring camera footage, medical records documenting stress-related pregnancy complications. I've been building a case without even realizing it. As the law enforcement officers gathered around her phone, copying files and taking statements, Elena felt something shift inside her chest. The pain was still there, the trauma of what Vanessa had done would take months or years to process. But underneath it all, a core of pure steel was forming. Vanessa Chen had tried to destroy her. Instead, she'd awakened something far more dangerous, a woman who'd lost everything and discovered she had nothing left to lose. And Ryan Martinez, the husband who'd betrayed her for a younger woman and a promised fortune, was about to learn that his quiet, compliant wife had been hiding connections that made the Chen family's wealth look like pocket change. Vincent's phone rang, and his expression darkened as he listened. Understood. I'll tell her. He hung up and turned to Elena. That was the prosecutor handling Ryan's questioning. He's asking for a deal. He wants to testify against Vanessa and her father in exchange for immunity from any conspiracy charges related to your attack. What does he say about the attack? Elena asked, her voice deadly calm. He claims he had no idea Vanessa was planning it, that she acted alone out of jealousy. Vincent's tone suggested he didn't believe a word. But Elena, his phone records show 3 calls from Vanessa this morning, each lasting several minutes. And security footage from her building shows him leaving her penthouse at 11:47 a.m., 2 hours before she attacked you. The implications were clear. Ryan had been there when Vanessa planned it. He might have even helped her plan it. Tell the prosecutor no deal, Elena said flatly. Ryan doesn't get to walk away from this. Not after what he's done. Not after he tried to murder his own daughter. Vincent smiled, the expression fierce and proud. That's my niece. Now, let's talk about what happens next. Because Vanessa Chen's attack just opened a door that the Chen family will regret for the rest of their lives. Outside Elena's hospital window, Los Angeles sprawled in the gathering dusk, millions of lights beginning to twinkle against the darkening sky. Somewhere in that vast city, Vanessa Chen sat in a holding cell, probably calling her father's lawyers, probably still believing her family's money could fix anything. She had no idea that the woman she'd tried to kill was about to become her worst nightmare. And Ryan Martinez, the husband who'd chosen wealth and beauty over loyalty and love, was about to discover that betrayal had consequences more devastating than he could imagine. The Ring doorbell had caught everything. Now the whole world was about to watch what happened when someone underestimated the wrong woman. The burns on Elena's abdomen throbbed with relentless intensity despite the morphine drip, but she refused to let the pain show on her face as hospital staff came and went throughout the night. Dr. Reeves had warned her that stress could trigger premature labor, but how was she supposed to remain calm when her entire world had exploded in the span of 12 hours? At 2:47 a.m., unable to sleep, Elena pulled up the Ring camera footage on her phone for the dozenth time. She needed to see it again, needed to understand how someone could do this. The video played in terrible clarity, Vanessa's designer outfit, the deliberate way she'd held that kettle, the words so perfectly captured, "You should have signed the papers," when Ryan asked nicely. Premeditation. Malice aforethought. Attempted murder. The legal terms Vincent had explained swirled through her mind like a protective shield against the horror of what had actually happened. If she thought about the law, the case, the evidence, she didn't have to think about how close she'd come to losing her daughter. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Agent Blake. Your uncle retrieved the hard drive from your home. The contents are exactly what we needed. Chen Technologies' entire fraudulent operation is documented in detail. Your husband was more thorough than we realized." Elena stared at the message, processing what it meant. Ryan had been gathering evidence against Marcus Chen for months, maybe longer. He'd stored it in her safe, making her an unknowing custodian of information worth billions. And then he'd fallen into bed with Chen's daughter, compromising everything. Another text followed: "We're executing search warrants on Chen Technologies, Marcus Chen's residence, and Vanessa Chen's penthouse at 6 a.m. Your attack accelerated our timeline. Sometimes justice works in unexpected ways. Vincent appeared in her doorway at 5:30 a.m., carrying coffee and wearing the same suit from yesterday, suggesting he hadn't slept either. "They're moving on the Chens in 30 minutes. I thought you'd want to know." "I want to watch," Elena said immediately. "Elena, you're in a hospital bed with second-degree burns covering 20% of your body. I want to watch," she repeated, her voice harder. "Vanessa Chen tried to kill my baby. I want to see her father's world collapse the same way mine did when she threw that water." Vincent studied her for a long moment, then pulled out his tablet. "Agent Blake is streaming the Chen Technologies raid to a secure feed. I can access it from here." He set up the tablet on Elena's bed table, and they watched in silence as FBI agents in tactical gear swarmed the gleaming Chen Technologies headquarters in downtown Los Angeles. Employees arriving for early shifts were turned away. Black SUVs blocked every exit. Within minutes, Marcus Chen himself was escorted from the building in handcuffs, his expensive suit rumpled, his expression stunned. "He thought he was untouchable," Vincent murmured. "Tech billionaires always do. They believe money can insulate them from consequences." "Like Vanessa believed," Elena said quietly. "Exactly like Vanessa. The Chen family has spent 3 generations building an empire on fraud, IP theft, and securities manipulation. Marcus thought marrying his daughter to your husband would give him a loyal CFO who'd never talk. Instead, Ryan's guilt over your pregnancy apparently triggered a crisis of conscience." Elena laughed, the sound bitter. "Ryan doesn't have a conscience. He has self-preservation instincts. He saw the writing on the wall and decided to save himself." "Perhaps," Vincent acknowledged. "But his evidence is legitimate, and it's going to destroy the Chens. 57 employees are being arrested this morning. The company's assets are frozen. Trading of Chen Technologies stock has been halted pending investigation." On the tablet screen, more agents emerged from the building carrying boxes of documents and computer equipment. The news helicopters had already arrived, broadcasting live footage of what reporters were calling the biggest tech fraud bust in California history. Elena's phone exploded with notifications. News alerts, social media mentions, messages from people she hadn't spoken to in years. The story was everywhere: pregnant woman attacked by tech heiress, FBI raids company hours later. Ring doorbell captures attempted murder, triggers federal investigation. The boiling water attack that brought down $1 billion empire. "It's viral," Vincent said, scrolling through his own phone. The doorbell footage has been viewed 40 million times in the past 6 hours. People are furious. The hashtag Justice for Elena is trending worldwide. Elena felt something twist in her chest. She'd become a symbol, a story, a viral moment. Millions of strangers knew her name, had seen her worst moment, were demanding justice on her behalf. It was violating and empowering in equal measure. Dr. Reeves entered for morning rounds, her expression carefully neutral as she examined Elena's burns. "The swelling has decreased, which is good. Your baby's heart rate remains strong. But Elena, your blood pressure is elevated. You need to try to rest." "How am I supposed to rest when the woman who did this is in jail and my husband is testifying against her family?" "I understand this is impossible, but stress-induced hypertension can trigger preterm labor. You're 33 weeks pregnant. We want to keep this baby inside you for at least another 3 weeks if possible." Dr. Reeves adjusted the 4-drip. "I'm increasing your magnesium sulfate to prevent contractions. It might make you feel foggy, but it's necessary." After the doctor left, Vincent received a phone call that made his expression darken considerably. "I see. When?" "No, don't release that information yet. Let me talk to my niece first." He hung up and turned to Elena with visible reluctance. "That was the DA's office. Vanessa Chen posted bail 2 hours ago." Elena's blood turned to ice. "What? You said she was being held without bail." "She was, until her father's attorney argued that she's not a flight risk and the attack was an isolated incident of passion. The judge set bail at $5 million. Marcus Chen posted it electronically from his holding cell. So she's free? She tried to murder my baby and she's just walking around free? She's under house arrest with an ankle monitor. She can't leave her penthouse, can't contact you or Ryan, can't access social media or make public statements. Vincent's voice was tight with barely controlled anger. But yes, technically, she's free until trial. Elena felt her daughter kick hard against her ribs, as if the baby could sense her mother's rage. What about Ryan? Still in federal custody. His cooperation deal fell through when evidence emerged that he knew about the attack in advance. Phone records show Vanessa called him at 1:15 p.m., 13 minutes before she arrived at your house. The call lasted 4 minutes. He knew, Elena whispered. He knew she was going to hurt me, and he didn't stop her. We believe he may have actively encouraged her. The FBI is analyzing the contents of that call now. Vincent moved closer, his voice gentling. Elena, there's something else. The district attorney wants to meet with you this afternoon. Catherine Walsh doesn't personally handle cases unless they're career-defining. She wants to make Vanessa Chen an example. Good. She should be an example. Rich people need to learn they can't just hurt people and walk away because daddy has money. A nurse knocked and entered, carrying a massive bouquet of white roses. Mrs. Martinez, these just arrived for you. Elena's stomach clenched as the nurse set the arrangement on the windowsill. White roses. Ryan had given her white roses on their first date, their wedding day, the day they'd found out about the pregnancy. There's a card, the nurse said, handing it over. Elena opened it with shaking hands. The message inside was written in feminine script, I'm sorry you got hurt. That was never supposed to happen. But you need to understand that Ryan loves me now. Sign the divorce papers and let him go. Fighting me will only make things worse for everyone. That stupid, arrogant. Vincent snatched the card from Elena's hand, his face flushed with fury. This is witness intimidation. She's on house arrest and she's sending you threats disguised as apologies. Call Agent Blake, Elena said, her voice cold and steady. Document everything. I want Vanessa Chen to keep making mistakes until she has no defense left. While Vincent made calls to the FBI and the DA's office, Elena stared at the white roses and thought about the woman who'd sent them. Vanessa Chen was 26 years old, beautiful and privileged, accustomed to getting everything she wanted. She'd grown up in penthouses and private schools, had never heard the word no without her father's money erasing it. And she'd thrown boiling water on a pregnant woman because that woman refused to disappear quietly. The medication Dr. Reeves had prescribed was making Elena's thoughts fuzzy around the edges, but through the haze, clarity emerged. Vanessa Chen wasn't just a criminal. She was a symbol of every entitled person who'd ever believed consequences were for other people. And Elena was going to make sure the entire world watched her fall. Rebecca Torres arrived at noon, Elena's best friend since college, her arms full of practical supplies, comfortable pajamas, toiletries, a laptop, and most importantly, files from Elena's home office. I grabbed everything I thought you might need, Rebecca said, setting up the laptop on the rolling table. Your insurance information, medical records, that folder you kept labeled Ryan's bullshit, which I'm assuming is relevant now. Elena managed a weak smile. That folder has copies of all our financial documents. I started keeping it when Ryan's behavior changed 6 months ago. Bank statements, credit card receipts, emails. I had a feeling something was wrong. Rebecca pulled up a chair, her expression fierce. Lena, I saw the video. Everyone's seen the video. That psychotic bitch tried to kill you and the baby. Please tell me she's going to prison forever. Uncle Vincent is handling it. The FBI is involved, the DA wants to prosecute personally, and Vanessa just violated her house arrest conditions by sending me threatening flowers. Good. Let her bury herself. Rebecca opened the laptop. Now, we need to talk about something important. Your social media has exploded. You have 400,000 new followers on Instagram, news outlets are requesting interviews, and there are 3 different GoFundMe campaigns raising money for your medical bills. What? I didn't authorize any GoFundMe, strangers started them. People who saw the video and want to help. The largest one has already raised $680,000. Rebecca showed her the screen. Lena, the entire internet is on your side. People are furious about what happened to you. Elena stared at the campaign page, reading comments from thousands of strangers. This made me cry. Justice for Elena and her baby. I've been in an abusive relationship. This woman is a hero for pressing charges. Praying for you and your daughter. I'm not a hero, Elena whispered. I'm just someone who got hurt. You're someone who got hurt and chose to fight back instead of hiding, Rebecca corrected. That makes you a hero to every woman who's ever been told to be quiet and accept abuse. Vincent returned with District Attorney Catherine Walsh, a woman in her 50s with silver-streaked hair and the bearing of someone who'd spent 30 years winning impossible cases. She shook Elena's hand carefully, mindful of the bandages. Mrs. Martinez, I'm sorry we're meeting under these circumstances. I've reviewed the evidence in your case, and I want to be direct with you. This is the most clear-cut attempted murder case I've seen in 20 years of prosecution. Then why is Vanessa Chen out on bail? Elena asked bluntly. Because her father has unlimited resources and the best defense attorney's money can buy. They'll argue temporary insanity, crime of passion, anything to reduce charges. Catherine pulled up a chair. But here's what they don't know. The FBI found evidence in Vanessa's penthouse that she'd been planning this for weeks. Elena felt her heart rate spike. What kind of evidence? Internet searches on her laptop for how to cause miscarriage, boiling water burns pregnancy, and ring doorbell blind spots. She also purchased that specific kettle 3 days before the attack. We have the credit card receipt. And most damning, she sent text messages to a friend saying, and I quote, "If that baby dies, Ryan will finally be free to marry me." The room fell silent. Even through the morphine haze, Elena understood what this meant. Vanessa hadn't just attacked her in a moment of rage. She'd researched, planned, and executed an attempt to murder an unborn child, all documented in her own digital footprint. She wanted to kill my baby, Elena said numbly. She actually wanted to kill her. Yes, Catherine confirmed gently. Which is why I'm charging her with attempted murder of both you and your unborn child, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, and violation of the Unborn Victims of Violence Act. Federal charges will be filed separately. If convicted on all counts, Vanessa Chen is looking at 25 years to life. Vincent leaned forward. And Ryan? Ryan Martinez is currently facing charges as an accessory to attempted murder. His phone records prove he knew about the attack in advance. We're offering him a deal, testify against both Vanessa and Marcus Chen, and we'll reduce charges to conspiracy and obstruction. He'd serve 3 to 5 years. No, Elena said immediately. No deals for Ryan. He knew that woman was going to hurt our baby and he didn't stop her. He doesn't get to walk away with a slap on the wrist. Catherine and Vincent exchanged glances. Elena, Vincent said carefully, without Ryan's testimony, the case against Marcus Chen becomes significantly harder to prove. Then find another way. But my husband doesn't get to testify his way out of prison for attempted murder of his own daughter. I don't care how valuable his evidence is. Catherine studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. All right. We'll build the case without his cooperation deal. But Mrs. Martinez, you need to understand, this decision might cost you financially. Without Ryan's testimony, Marcus Chen might walk on some charges. His company will be destroyed, but he might avoid prison time. I don't care about Marcus Chen. I care about Vanessa Chen going to prison for what she did to me, and Ryan Martinez going to prison for letting it happen. Elena's voice was steel-wrapped in exhaustion. They don't get to hurt us and then profit from cooperation deals. After Catherine left, Rebecca squeezed Elena's hand. You're sure about this? Turning down Ryan's deal? I've never been more sure of anything. Ryan made his choice when he let Vanessa attack me. Now he gets to live with it. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of medical checks, legal consultations, and mounting media attention. By 6 p.m., CNN was running special coverage titled "The Ring Doorbell Attack: How One Video Exposed a Web of Corruption." Fox News had a legal panel debating whether Vanessa's bail should be revoked. MSNBC interviewed domestic violence experts about the epidemic of violence against pregnant women. Elena's story had become America's story, a narrative about justice and privilege and the courage to fight back. She watched the coverage with Vincent, seeing her own face frozen in that terrible moment, her hands reaching to protect her belly, Vanessa's expression of cold calculation. "Does it get easier?" she asked Vincent quietly. "Being this exposed? Having strangers know your worst moment?" "No," he admitted. "But it gets purposeful. Right now, millions of women are watching your story and finding the courage to leave their own abusive situations. That matters, Elena. Your pain is giving other people hope." Her daughter kicked hard, and Elena pressed her hand to the spot, feeling the strong movements beneath her burned skin. "I just want her to be safe. I want her to grow up in a world where people face consequences for hurting others." "Then we'll make sure she does," Vincent promised. Vanessa Chen's attack was the worst mistake of her life. Not because she hurt you, but because she hurt you while being arrogant enough to think money would protect her from justice. Outside Elena's window, the sun was setting over Los Angeles, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Somewhere in the city, Vanessa Chen sat in her penthouse, probably calling lawyers, probably still believing this would all blow over. Marcus Chen was in federal custody, watching his empire crumble. And Ryan Martinez was in a holding cell, finally understanding that betrayal had consequences he couldn't negotiate his way out of. Elena touched her belly again, whispering promises to her daughter. "You're going to be okay, sweet girl. Mama's going to make sure of it. And when you're old enough to understand, I'll tell you that you were the reason I found my strength. The reason I stopped accepting less than I deserved." Her phone buzzed with another message from Agent Blake. "Vanessa Chen's ankle monitor shows she left her penthouse for 17 minutes this afternoon. Her bail is being revoked. She'll be back in custody within the hour." Elena smiled, the expression fierce and satisfied. Vanessa had just made another mistake. And each mistake was another nail in the coffin of her defense. The Ring doorbell had caught everything. Now, the entire justice system was watching what happened next. The news that Vanessa Chen's bail had been revoked reached Elena at 7:23 p.m., delivered by Agent Blake himself, who arrived at her hospital room with a satisfaction that suggested he'd personally enjoyed making the arrest. She claimed she left the penthouse to meet with her attorney, Blake explained, pulling up security footage on his tablet. But GPS tracking shows she actually went to a luxury car dealership in Beverly Hills, where she purchased a $180,000 Mercedes with her father's frozen assets. The dealership owner is now being investigated for accepting payment from accounts under federal seizure. Vincent leaned over to watch the footage. Vanessa, dressed in Chanel despite being under house arrest, signing paperwork while the dealership manager fawned over her. The timestamp showed 2:47 p.m., roughly the same time Elena had received the threatening flower arrangement. "She can't help herself," Vincent murmured. "Entitled people never can. They genuinely believe rules don't apply to them." "Where is she now?" Elena asked. "Metropolitan Detention Center, no bail this time." The judge was not amused by her violation. Blake's smile was grim. "She's in general population, Mrs. Martinez. No special treatment, no private cell. She's experiencing what regular defendants experience." Rebecca, who'd been scrolling through social media on her phone, suddenly gasped. "Oh my God, Lena. You need to see this." She turned the phone around, showing a video posted to TikTok 30 minutes earlier. The caption read, "Vanessa Chen being processed at MDC, Karma." The footage, clearly filmed by another inmate or staff member, showed Vanessa in an orange jumpsuit, her designer clothes and jewelry confiscated, her face red and tear-streaked as she was led to a cell. The video had already been viewed 3 million times. The comments were ruthless. That's what you get for attacking a pregnant woman. Money can't buy you out of everything. Hope that boiling water was worth it. This is what justice looks like. Someone leaked her intake process, Agent Blake said, his tone suggesting he wasn't particularly bothered by the breach. It's technically against protocol, but given the public interest in this case, I doubt there will be serious consequences for whoever posted it. Elena watched the video loop, seeing Vanessa's breakdown captured for millions of viewers. Part of her felt a flicker of pity. The woman looked genuinely terrified, stripped of all her armor. But then Elena shifted in the hospital bed and felt the agonizing pull of burned skin across her abdomen, and the pity evaporated. "Good," she said quietly. "Let her feel what it's like to be powerless. Let her understand what she did to me." Dr. Reeves appeared for evening rounds, her expression concerned as she reviewed Elena's chart. "Your blood pressure is still elevated, and you're showing early signs of preeclampsia. We need to monitor you very closely over the next 48 hours. What does that mean for the baby?" Elena asked immediately, her hand moving to her belly. "It means if your condition worsens, we may need to induce labor early. You're 33 weeks now. If we can keep her inside until 35 weeks, that's ideal. But if the preeclampsia progresses, delivering early becomes safer than keeping you pregnant." Dr. Reeves adjusted the medication drip. "I'm adding a steroid injection to help mature the baby's lungs, just as a precaution." After the doctor left, Elena felt tears slide down her cheeks. "This is my fault. The stress, the anger, I'm hurting her." "No," Vincent said firmly. "Vanessa Chen hurt you both. You're fighting to protect your daughter. That's not the same as causing harm." Rebecca wiped Elena's tears gently. "Lena, you're the strongest person I know. Your baby is going to be fine because she has a mama who refuses to quit." Elena's phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Elena Martinez?" The voice was unfamiliar, female, cultured. "Who is this?" "My name is Diane Chen. I'm Marcus Chen's wife and Vanessa's mother." Elena's grip tightened on the phone. Vincent immediately moved closer, his expression alert. Elena put the call on speaker. "Mrs. Chen, if you're calling to threaten me, I'm calling to apologize." Diane's voice cracked. "I saw the video. I saw what my daughter did to you. And I need you to know that I had no idea she was capable of such violence. I raised her better than this." Elena was silent, unsure how to respond. "My husband has spent 30 years building an empire on fraud and manipulation," Diane continued. "I knew about some of it. I looked the other way because I enjoyed the lifestyle, the status, the money. But I never imagined Vanessa would become like him. That she believed she could hurt people without consequences." "Why are you telling me this?" Elena asked. "Because I want to testify against both of them. My husband and my daughter. I want to help you get justice, and I want to make sure they can't hurt anyone else." Vincent gestured urgently for Elena to keep her talking. He was already texting someone, probably Agent Blake. "Mrs. Chen, what exactly do you know about your daughter's attack on me?" "I know she'd been planning it for at least 2 weeks. She told me Ryan wanted a divorce from you, but you were being difficult about signing papers. She said you were trying to trap him with the baby, that you were a gold digger." Diane's voice turned bitter. "I believed her because that's what Marcus always said about women who married for money. But then I saw the video, and I saw you trying to protect your baby, and I realized my daughter is a monster we created." "Did Vanessa tell you she was going to attack me?" "Not explicitly. But 3 days before it happened, she asked me if boiling water could cause a miscarriage. She said she was asking for a friend." Diane sobbed. "I told her I didn't know, that it was a terrible question. I should have realized what she was planning. I should have stopped her." Agent Blake arrived at that moment, having apparently been in the building. Vincent handed him the phone, mouthing Vanessa's mother. Blake identified himself and took over the conversation. "Mrs. Chen, are you willing to make an official statement about everything you just told Mrs. Martinez?" Yes. I'll testify, I'll wear a wire, whatever you need. I want Vanessa to face consequences, and I want Marcus to lose everything he stole from honest people. After Blake ended the call and left to arrange Diane's formal cooperation, Elena turned to Vincent. Can we trust her? She's been complicit in her husband's crimes for decades. Maybe, Vincent said thoughtfully. Or maybe seeing her daughter in an orange jumpsuit on TikTok was the wake-up call she needed. Either way, her testimony will be devastating. A mother testifying against her own daughter carries enormous weight with juries. Rebecca was reading something on her laptop, her expression growing darker. Guys, you need to see this. Ryan gave an interview to the Los Angeles Times from his holding cell. It posted 20 minutes ago. She turned the screen around. The headline read, "Husband of boiling water victim speaks out, I never wanted any of this." Elena felt her blood pressure spike as she read Ryan's words, "I love my wife Elena, and I would never want her harmed. What Vanessa did was horrific and unforgivable. I had no idea she was capable of such violence. Yes, we had an affair, and yes, I made terrible mistakes. But I never, ever wanted Elena or our baby hurt. I was manipulated by Vanessa Chen, who used her father's wealth and influence to control me. I'm cooperating fully with authorities and hope Elena can someday forgive me." "That lying son of a," Rebecca's voice rose before Vincent held up a hand. "Let him lie," Vincent said calmly. "Every false statement he makes now can be contradicted with phone records and evidence later. He's building his own prosecution case." But Elena was already composing a response on her phone. She opened Instagram, where her follower count had climbed to over 600,000, and began typing, "My husband Ryan Martinez claims he had no idea Vanessa Chen would attack me. But phone records show she called him 13 minutes before arriving at our house with boiling water. That call lasted 4 minutes. He knew. He could have warned me, called the police, stopped her. Instead, he did nothing while the woman he chose over his family tried to murder our daughter. Don't let him rewrite history. The evidence will speak for itself. #Justice for Elena #The Ring Doorbell sees all." She hesitated only a moment before posting. The response was immediate, thousands of likes, hundreds of comments within seconds. "Thank you for speaking your truth. Don't let him play victim. We believe you, Elena. Your husband is a coward." Vincent looked at the post and smiled slightly. "You're learning how to use public opinion as a weapon. Your mother would be proud." The mention of her mother made Elena's chest tighten. Maria Martinez had died 3 years ago from breast cancer, never knowing that her daughter's marriage was already fracturing. She'd loved Ryan, had believed he was the stable, successful partner Elena deserved. "Mama would have killed Ryan herself if she'd lived to see this," Elena said quietly. "She didn't raise me to accept being treated like garbage." "No, she raised you to fight back," Vincent agreed. "Which is exactly what you're doing." At 9:15 p.m., Catherine Walsh called with an update. "Mrs. Martinez, I wanted you to hear this from me first. We've had to move up the preliminary hearing due to media attention and public pressure. It's scheduled for 3 days from now." 3 days? "But I'm still in the hospital, I know, and I'm sorry. But the defense is arguing that the viral nature of the case is prejudicing potential jurors. The judge wants to move quickly to preserve Vanessa's right to a fair trial." Catherine's voice was apologetic. "Can you testify via video link from the hospital?" Elena thought about appearing in court, burned and pregnant and vulnerable, while Vanessa sat at the defense table in borrowed clothes. Then she thought about the 40 million people who'd watched the doorbell footage, who were demanding justice, who believed in her. "I'll testify in person," she said firmly. "I want to look Vanessa Chen in the eyes and tell the court what she did to me and my daughter." "Elena, that's not medically advisable," Vincent started. "I don't care. Dr. Reeves can come with me. We can have a wheelchair, oxygen, whatever I need. But I will not let Vanessa Chen see me testify from a hospital bed like I'm too weak to face her." Catherine was quiet for a moment. "All right. I'll arrange for medical support at the courthouse. But Mrs. Martinez, you should know, the defense team is going to try to destroy your credibility. They'll argue you provoked Vanessa, that you're exaggerating your injuries, that you're using this for attention and sympathy. Let them try, Elena said. I have second-degree burns covering 20% of my body. I have a Ring doorbell video showing exactly what happened. And I have a baby inside me who's 3 weeks from being born premature because of the stress this attack caused. No jury in the world will believe I wanted this. After the call ended, Dr. Reeves returned with concerning news. Elena, your protein levels are rising. We're definitely looking at early-stage preeclampsia. I cannot in good conscience support you attending a court hearing in 3 days. Then I'll sign whatever waiver you need, Elena replied. But I'm going. This woman tried to kill my baby. I'm not hiding. Dr. Reeves looked at Vincent helplessly. Can you talk sense into her? No one has ever been able to talk sense into a Martinez woman, Vincent said with a slight smile. But I can make sure she has the best medical support available if she insists on this. Rebecca squeezed Elena's hand. I'll be there too. Front row, staring daggers at Vanessa the entire time. As visiting hours ended and Rebecca left for the night, Elena lay in the quiet hospital room, her hand on her belly where her daughter moved restlessly. Through the window, Los Angeles glittered with a million lights, each one representing someone who'd probably seen the video by now. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number: stop talking to the media and drop the charges, or things will get worse for you. You have no idea who you're dealing with. Elena screenshot the message and immediately forwarded it to Agent Blake with a note, received 9:47 p.m. Please document. His response came within 60 seconds, tracing now. Do not engage. But Elena was already typing a response: is this Vanessa or one of her friends? Because threatening a federal witness is a crime. Every message you send gives prosecutors more evidence. Keep going, you're doing our job for us. She didn't send it. Instead, she deleted the draft and put her phone on the bedside table. Vincent was right, let them make mistakes, let them feel confident enough to be sloppy, let them build the prosecution's case with their own arrogance. Vincent had dozed off in the reclining chair beside her bed, his tablet still displaying financial records from Chen Technologies. He'd been working 18-hour days to bring down Marcus Chen's empire, and now his niece's attack had accelerated everything. Elena studied her uncle's face, seeing echoes of her mother in his features. They'd had a falling out after Maria's funeral, something about money and family obligations that Elena had been too grief-stricken to fully understand. She'd cut off contact, changed her number, refused his attempts at reconciliation. Now she understood he'd been trying to protect her. Trying to warn her about Ryan's connection to the Chen family, trying to offer her a way out before everything exploded. I'm sorry, Tio, she whispered to his sleeping form. I should have listened. Her daughter kicked hard, and Elena pressed her hand to the spot. Your great uncle is going to help us, baby girl. We're going to make sure you grow up safe, knowing that people who hurt others face consequences. At midnight, unable to sleep despite the medication, Elena pulled up the Ring doorbell footage one more time. She'd watched it so many times now that certain details had burned into her memory, the way Vanessa's hand had gripped the kettle handle, the slight smile on her face before she threw the water, the deliberate aim toward Elena's pregnant belly. Not her face, not her arms, her belly. Vanessa had aimed specifically at the baby. Elena felt rage bubble up from somewhere deep in her chest, hot and pure and righteous. This wasn't just assault. It was attempted murder of a child who'd never done anything except exist. She opened her laptop and began writing, her burned fingers clumsy on the keyboard but her thoughts crystal clear. 3 days from now, I'll testify in court about what Vanessa Chen did to me and my unborn daughter. I'll tell the judge how she researched ways to cause miscarriages, how she bought a kettle specifically for this attack, how she aimed boiling water at my pregnant belly with the intent to kill my baby. People keep asking me how I'm so calm, so composed, so willing to fight when I should be terrified. The answer is simple, I'm not fighting for myself anymore. I'm fighting for my daughter, and for every woman who's been told to stay quiet about violence. I'm fighting because silence protects abusers, and speaking up protects future victims. Vanessa Chen thought she could hurt me and walk away because her father has billions of dollars. She thought money would protect her from consequences. She was wrong. To everyone following this story, thank you for your support. Thank you for believing me. Thank you for demanding justice. Your voices matter more than you know. Hashtag justice for Elena. Hashtag pregnancy violence is attempted murder. She posted it to Instagram, and within minutes, it had 10,000 likes. 20,000, 50,000. The comments flooded in faster than she could read them, a chorus of support from strangers who'd become invested in her story. If you're hooked on this journey and want to see how Elena completely destroys Vanessa Chen in that courtroom, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more stories of justice prevailing over privilege. Drop a comment telling me what you think should happen to Vanessa. I read every single one. Outside her window, the city never slept. Tomorrow would bring more legal battles, more media attention, more evidence of just how deep the conspiracy against her went. But tonight, Elena Martinez, burned, pregnant, and angrier than she'd ever been in her life, was learning that sometimes the best revenge was simply refusing to be destroyed. Vanessa Chen had made a mistake throwing that boiling water. Not because she'd gotten caught, but because she'd underestimated the woman she was trying to destroy. And that mistake was going to cost her everything. The night stretched endlessly, punctuated by nurses checking vitals and the rhythmic beeping of monitors tracking both Elena's health and her daughter's heartbeat. At 3:17 a.m., Elena woke to find Vincent still awake, his face illuminated by the glow of his tablet. "You should sleep," she said quietly. He looked up, startled. "So should you." Dr. Reeves said rest is critical. "I keep dreaming about the water. About not being fast enough to protect her." Elena's hand moved to her belly. "What if I'd been slower? What if the burns had been worse? What if—" "Stop." Vincent set down his tablet and moved to sit on the edge of her bed. "Elena, you did protect her. Your instinct to shield your belly probably saved her life. You can't torture yourself with what-ifs." "Mama used to say that," Elena whispered. "She'd say worry is just suffering twice." "Maria was the wisest person I ever knew," Vincent said softly. "I think about her every day. I think about how she'd handle this situation, what she'd tell you to do. She'd tell me to fight like hell and take no prisoners." Elena managed a small smile. "She didn't believe in being a victim. Neither do you. That's why you're testifying in 3 days despite doctor's orders." Vincent pulled out his phone. "Elena, there's something I need to show you. Something I discovered tonight while going through the financial records from your house." He opened a file and showed her bank statements she'd never seen before. Joint accounts in her and Ryan's names, but with transactions she didn't recognize. Large deposits every month for the past year, always on the 15th, always exactly $25,000. "What is this?" Elena asked, scrolling through the statements. "Payments from Marcus Chen to Ryan. We found the corresponding withdrawals in Chen Technologies books, listed as consulting fees. But there are no consulting contracts, no invoices, no legitimate business purpose." Vincent's expression was grim. "Ryan was being paid to provide information about my investigation. He was a double agent." Elena felt the world tilt. "He was selling you out? While pretending to cooperate?" "It appears so." The payments started exactly 1 week after Ryan agreed to wear a wire and gather evidence against Chen. Every piece of information he fed us, he was simultaneously warning Marcus about. Vincent swiped to another document. "But here's what Marcus Chen didn't know. We suspected Ryan might be compromised, so we fed him false information to see where it went. And 3 separate times, information we only told Ryan showed up in Marcus Chen's legal filings within 48 hours. Ryan was caught in his own trap, taking money from both sides and loyal to neither." Elena stared at the financial records, seeing her husband's betrayal mapped out in numbers and dates. $25,000 a month for a year. $300,000 total. Blood money, paid to betray the investigation that could have stopped the Chens before Vanessa ever threw that water. Does this mean? Elena's voice caught. Does this mean Ryan's cooperation could have prevented my attack? If he'd actually been helping you instead of warning Marcus, would Vanessa have been arrested before she hurt me? Vincent was quiet for a long moment. We don't know. But it's possible that if Ryan had been genuine in his cooperation, we would have arrested both Marcus and Vanessa weeks ago on fraud charges. They would have been in custody, unable to plan or execute an attack on you. Elena felt something crack open in her chest. Not just betrayal anymore, but something deeper. Ryan hadn't just failed to stop Vanessa, his own corruption had created the conditions that allowed her to act. I want him charged, she said, her voice steady despite the tears streaming down her face. Not as an accessory to attempted murder. As a conspirator in the fraud case, as an obstruction of justice, as whatever will put him away the longest. Catherine Walsh is already preparing additional charges. When this comes out at the preliminary hearing, Ryan's credibility as any kind of witness will be destroyed. Vincent squeezed her hand. He thought he could play both sides and walk away rich. Instead, he's going to prison. At 7 a.m., Dr. Reeves arrived with a team of specialists. They performed another ultrasound, checking the baby's growth and monitoring Elena's preeclampsia. The news was both reassuring and concerning. Your daughter is measuring small for gestational age, Dr. Reeves explained, pointing to measurements on the screen. Not dangerously so, but she's feeling the effects of your stress and elevated blood pressure. Her heart rate is good, movement is normal, but if we can keep her inside you for another 10 days, she'll have a much better chance. 10 days takes us past the preliminary hearing, Elena calculated. Yes, which is why I'm strongly recommending you testify via video link. Dr. Reeves' tone was firm. The stress of appearing in court could trigger labor, Elena. Is making a dramatic appearance worth risking your daughter's health? Elena looked at the ultrasound screen, at her daughter's profile, at the tiny hands already making fists like she was ready to fight. What if I promise to stay calm? What if I have medical support right there? There's no such thing as staying calm when you're testifying about someone trying to murder you and your baby. Dr. Reeves closed the ultrasound machine. But I know I can't stop you. So here's what we're going to do, I'm personally attending that hearing. We'll have an ambulance on standby. At the first sign of distress, you're being wheeled out whether the judge likes it or not. Deal, Elena agreed. After the medical team left, Rebecca arrived with breakfast from Elena's favorite cafe and news from the outside world. The preliminary hearing is all anyone's talking about, Rebecca said, setting up the food. Legal analysts on every channel, betting pools on whether Vanessa will take a plea deal, think pieces about violence against pregnant women. You've become the face of a movement, Lena. I didn't ask to be anyone's face. I just want justice. Well, you're getting both. Rebecca pulled up her phone. Look at this, the National Organization for Women is holding a rally outside the courthouse on the day of your hearing. They're calling it Justice for All Victims. Thousands of people have RSVP'd. Elena looked at the event page, seeing her own face, a photo from before the attack, when she'd been glowing with pregnancy and hope, used as the banner image. The description read, "We stand with Elena Martinez and all victims of intimate partner violence. We demand accountability for Vanessa Chen and systemic change to protect pregnant women from assault." This feels too big, Elena whispered. What if I'm not strong enough? What if I break down on the stand? Then you break down, Rebecca said firmly. You're allowed to be human, Lena. You're allowed to cry. You're allowed to show how much this hurt you. That doesn't make you weak, it makes you real. At 9:30 a.m., Agent Blake arrived with someone Elena didn't expect, Diane Chen, looking 20 years older than her 53 years, wearing a simple black dress with no jewelry, her face free of makeup and ravaged by obvious lack of sleep. Mrs. Martinez, Diane said, her voice trembling. Thank you for agreeing to see me. Elena studied the woman whose daughter had tried to kill her baby. Diane's eyes were red-rimmed, her hands shaking as she twisted a tissue between her fingers. She looked genuinely destroyed. Agent Blake said you have information, Elena said neutrally. I have more than information. I have proof. Diane pulled out her phone with trembling hands. 3 weeks ago, Vanessa asked me to help her find your address. She said she wanted to send flowers to apologize for the affair with Ryan. I thought it was a nice gesture, so I used my private investigator to find you. The admission hung in the air like a confession. You gave your daughter my address, Elena said slowly. You helped her plan this. I didn't know, I swear I didn't know what she was planning. Diane's voice broke. But when I saw the video, when I saw her throw that water at your belly, I realized I'd helped her hurt you. I've been complicit in my daughter's crimes just like I've been complicit in my husband's for 30 years. Agent Blake opened a folder. Mrs. Chen has provided us with text messages between her and Vanessa, phone records showing the private investigator contact, and most importantly, recordings of conversations where Vanessa discussed her plans. What kind of recordings? Elena asked. Diane looked ashamed. I've been recording my family's conversations for 5 years. My therapist suggested it to help me process Marcus's abuse. I never intended to use the recordings against anyone, but now. She gestured helplessly. Now I have proof of things I wish I didn't know. Agent Blake played one of the recordings. Vanessa's voice, clear and chilling, Ryan will never leave Elena while she's pregnant with his brat. But if something happened to the baby, if Elena lost it, he'd be free. He'd marry me like he promised. Diane's voice responded, Vanessa, that's a terrible thing to say. You can't wish harm on an innocent baby. I'm not wishing, Mother. I'm planning. There are ways to cause miscarriages. Medical ways. Accidents. The recording ended. Elena felt ice in her veins. When was this recorded? She asked. 3 weeks ago. The day after I helped her find your address. Diane was crying now, mascara-free tears streaming down her face. I should have gone to the police immediately. I should have warned you. But I kept thinking she was just talking, that she'd never actually do anything. I was wrong, and because of my cowardice, you were hurt. Elena was quiet for a long moment. She thought about her own mother, about the fierce protectiveness Maria had shown even when Elena made terrible decisions. She thought about the baby inside her, about whether she could ever imagine standing by if her daughter threatened violence against someone. You could have stopped this, Elena said finally. You knew your daughter was dangerous, and you did nothing. I know. I know, and I'll carry that guilt for the rest of my life. Diane met her eyes. But I can't undo what happened. All I can do now is make sure Vanessa faces full consequences, and that my husband loses everything he's built on fraud and manipulation. Mrs. Chen is willing to testify at the preliminary hearing, Agent Blake said. Her testimony, combined with the recordings and financial evidence, will likely result in Vanessa being held over for trial on all charges. What about you? Elena asked Diane. Won't you face charges for not reporting Vanessa's threats? Probably. My attorney says I might be charged as an accessory after the fact for not reporting what I knew. Diane straightened her shoulders. I deserve whatever consequences come. I've spent 30 years looking the other way while my family hurt people. That ends now. After Diane and Agent Blake left, Elena turned to Vincent. Can we trust her? She's been covering for her family for decades. I think she's genuine, Vincent said thoughtfully. Watching your daughter get arrested and seeing yourself complicit in violence has a way of forcing perspective. But even if she's not genuine, her testimony is corroborated by physical evidence. The recordings are real. The text messages are real. Whether Diane Chen is actually remorseful or just trying to save herself doesn't change the facts. Rebecca had been unusually quiet during Diane's visit. Now she spoke up, her voice tight with anger. That woman helped Vanessa find you, and now she wants credit for turning on her daughter? That's not redemption, that's self-preservation. Maybe, Elena agreed. But I don't care about her motivations. I care about putting Vanessa in prison and making sure she never hurts anyone else. The afternoon brought a surprise visitor, Catherine Walsh herself, accompanied by a woman Elena recognized from news coverage, Senator Patricia Morrison, who'd been championing legislation to strengthen protections for pregnant women. Mrs. Martinez, Senator Morrison said, shaking her hand carefully. I've followed your case closely. What happened to you is exactly why we need federal standards for prosecuting violence against pregnant women. Thank you, Senator. But I'm not sure why you're here. Because your preliminary hearing isn't just about Vanessa Chen anymore. It's become a referendum on how we treat crimes against pregnant women in this country. Morrison pulled out a tablet. Since your attack, there have been 47 documented assaults on pregnant women nationwide. 47 women who saw your story and found the courage to report their own abuse. The number took Elena's breath away. 47? Yes. And every single one of those cases is now being prosecuted with enhanced charges specifically citing violence against an unborn child. Your case is creating legal precedent, Mrs. Martinez. What happens in that courtroom 3 days from now will affect how hundreds of future cases are handled. Catherine leaned forward. Which is why we need to discuss your testimony strategy. The defense is going to argue that you're exaggerating your injuries, that the attack was less severe than you claim, that Vanessa acted in a moment of passion rather than premeditation. But we have video evidence. Video shows what happened, not intent. They're going to claim Vanessa brought the kettle to make tea, that throwing the water was an impulsive decision during an argument, that she didn't aim for your belly. Catherine's expression was grave. We need to prove premeditation beyond doubt. That's where Diane Chen's testimony becomes crucial. Senator Morrison nodded. And that's where your own testimony needs to be powerful but controlled. The jury, the judge at this preliminary hearing, needs to see a credible victim, not an emotional wreck. I'm not an emotional wreck, Elena said, her voice hardening. I'm a pregnant woman who was attacked in her own home by her husband's mistress. I'm allowed to have emotions about that. Of course you are, Morrison replied quickly. But courtroom strategy matters. Let me be blunt, Mrs. Martinez. Vanessa Chen's defense team has already started planting stories suggesting you provoked the attack, that you've been harassing Ryan and Vanessa, that you're using this for attention. Rebecca pulled up a tabloid website on her phone. The headline read, "Friends say Elena Martinez threatened Vanessa Chen weeks before attack." The article, obviously fed by Chen family attorneys, painted Elena as an unstable, jealous wife who'd sent threatening messages to Vanessa. That's complete fiction, Elena said, her hands shaking with rage. I never contacted Vanessa except to ask her to leave my husband alone. I have copies of every communication. There were no threats. We know, Catherine said. And we'll prove it. But you need to understand what you're walking into. The defense will try to make you the villain. They'll question your character, your mental stability, your motives. Are you prepared for that? She thought about Ryan's betrayal, about Vanessa's calculated cruelty, about the recordings proving this had been planned for weeks. I'm prepared, she said firmly. Let them try to make me the villain. The Ring doorbell doesn't lie, and neither will I. At 6 p.m. Dr. Reeves returned with test results that made everyone in the room tense. Elena, your protein levels have increased significantly. You're progressing into moderate preeclampsia. If this continues, we may need to deliver within 48 hours. That's the day before the hearing, Elena calculated. Yes. Which means testifying might not even be an option. Dr. Reeves sat down beside the bed. Elena, I need you to understand something. Preeclampsia can progress rapidly. If your blood pressure spikes or you develop seizure symptoms, we deliver immediately regardless of gestational age. Your life and your daughter's life come first. Elena felt her daughter kick as if responding to the conversation. 33 weeks and 2 days. Still too early, but viable. If she delivered tomorrow, her baby would need NICU care but would likely survive. How do we stop the progression? She asked. Complete bed rest, minimal stress, medication, and prayer, Dr. Reeves said bluntly. You need to stay calm and quiet, which means no preliminary hearing, no media interviews, no courtroom drama. But, no buts. Your daughter's life is more important than any hearing. Dr. Reeves' voice was firm but gentle. Elena, you can testify later at the actual trial if needed. But right now, keeping this baby inside you is the priority. Vincent touched Elena's shoulder. She's right, Mija. Nothing is worth risking your daughter's life. Elena looked around the room at the people trying to protect her, her uncle, her best friend, her doctor. She thought about the thousands of women watching her story, waiting to see if justice would prevail. She thought about Vanessa Chen, probably sitting in her jail cell, probably confident that Elena was too sick to testify. Can I testify via video if the preeclampsia stabilizes? She asked Dr. Reeves. If, and this is a big if, your levels stabilize over the next 48 hours, and if we have full medical support on standby, then possibly yes. But at the first sign of distress, the feed gets cut and you deliver. No arguments. Deal, Elena agreed. After everyone left for the night except Vincent, who'd taken up permanent residence in the chair beside her bed, Elena pulled out her phone and began writing another Instagram post. Update: my doctors have diagnosed moderate preeclampsia caused by the stress of Vanessa Chen's attack. There's a chance I may need to deliver my daughter early to protect both our lives. If that happens, I want everyone to know this is another consequence of what Vanessa did. The burns will heal, the scars will fade, but forcing my baby to be born weeks early because my body can't handle the trauma? That's permanent. To everyone asking if I'll still testify at the preliminary hearing, I'll be there, even if I have to testify from a hospital bed. Vanessa Chen tried to silence me with violence. She failed. She won't stop me with medical complications either. 3 days until justice. #Justice for Elena #preeclampsia awareness #victims speak up. The post went viral within minutes. By midnight, it had 500,000 likes and had been shared by celebrities, politicians, and domestic violence organizations. The hashtag 3 days to justice began trending. Elena fell asleep with her phone buzzing with notifications, her hand on her belly where her daughter slept restlessly, in a bone-deep certainty that whatever happened in 3 days, she would face it standing, or sitting in a wheelchair, but facing it nonetheless. Vanessa Chen had made a terrible mistake. Not just in throwing that water, but in assuming Elena would be too broken to fight back. Some women crumbled under violence. Others turned into warriors. And Elena Martinez was about to show the world which kind she was.